Hello and welcome to today's webinar entitled Beyond Snagging, Maximising Site Management Workflows with Digital Tools. I'm really excited to be chairing this one today. My name is Jordan Marshall and I'm Special Projects Editor at Building Magazine. So I'd like to kick things off by introducing our speakers today. So first up we have Andy Elmy, Managing Director at Red Jam, and Matt Caudron, Operations Director at Red Jam. We also have Mike Green, Managing Director at Red Systems, Stephen Parker, Operations Manager at Reimagine eTech's New Ways, and Ben Wallbank, BIM Strategy and Partnerships Manager at Trimble. We'd also love to say a special thank you to Trimble to making today's session possible. Just a little bit of housekeeping from me before I hand over to the experts on the call. The way today's session is going to run is that our presenters will do a presentation that takes up between around 30-ish minutes of the session, followed by Q&A, and that's where we want you, the audience, to get involved. So please send through questions at any time, and we'll try and answer off as many of those as we possibly can. Another question we always get is, can you watch this? Can you share it with a colleague afterwards who might find it interesting? The answer is yes. It will be available within about an hour of the conclusion of the session via the same link that you've registered today. That's probably enough from me to kick things off. So I'm going to hand over to Ben first up, who is going to give us a bit of an introduction.
I've lost my sharing button down at the bottom of the screen. I don't know where that's gone.
No worries. We can pull those up for you. Just give us 1 second. Sorry, we're just having a tech glitch outside. It'll be 2 seconds and they'll be up and running.
No problem.
They're up there now, Ben. We'll get them into full size in a second. So if you want to see talking, yeah.
So I take it I don't have control over that now then?
No, just tell it. Say next slide and Selena will manage it.
Okay, so are we presenting now?
Yeah, the slides are running. I'm just going to make them full size, but you start.
Okay, so my name is Ben Wallbank and I'm the BIM Strategy and Partnerships Manager at Trimble in EMEA. So my role here today is really just to put into context the story that you're going to hear about on-site data collection into a wider context. Next slide, please. So Trimble are really actually quite a huge organization, and we work in 149 countries around the world, and we're not just in construction, we're also in agriculture, geospatial, transport and utilities as well. Next slide, please. Really huge, 3.8 billion turnover last year, and about $1.5 billion of that in construction. Next slide, please. And in the wider world, but particularly in construction, what we are trying to do is make the data that's created both in the originating softwares and in the validating softwares and in the data collecting softwares on site and indeed through the operational phases of an asset, make that data more usable and more easy to flow from one product to another in a sort of connected construction workflow. And you can see here some of our products ranging from SketchUp at the early stages of design all the way through to data collection on site, which is the stuff like Field View. Next slide, please. So in the data collection side, we're working very hard to start to get connections between not just Viewpoint for Projects and Field View on site, but also with Trimble Connect to again make these workflows and the reporting that we're getting from site easy. And you'll begin to see a little bit of that today in the context of, next slide, please. In the context of Field View. So Field View is a tablet-based solution, offline collection of data on site and then synced back into the cloud once you're back in the office. So people often think of this just as a snagging solution and partly what we're doing today is showing that data collection on site really refers to any data that you may be collecting. So we'll have a few case studies as we go. So I'm going to hand over very quickly now to Andy Almy. Andy, all yours.
Thanks, Ben. That's great. I'll just share my slides, and hopefully, if I can get some confirmation the slides are visible, that would be fantastic.
Yep, we can see them.
Perfect. Thanks, Ben. So yeah, as Ben said, FieldView is much more than a snagging tool, and as it says on this slide, sort of beyond snagging and the title of the webinar, it's about how do we maximise the use of it within site operations, but also the wider arena. First of all, I know, thanks to Jordan, who's introduced us, but there's myself, Andy Almy, Managing Director of Red Jam.
Have we lost Andy?
It does sound that way.
Just lost Andy's sound. Yes, we have. We'll get him back up right now. Matt, did you want to introduce yourself while I grab and get Andy back online?
Yeah, of course. Sorry. Yeah. So hi, my name's Matt Caudron. I'm the Operations Director at Red Jam. We're going to obviously introduce Mike, who's Managing Director at Red Systems, and Stevie, who's Operations Manager at Reimagine. We're going to hand over to those guys shortly to do a bit of an intro as to who they are and a little bit of an intro regarding their organisations. I'm assuming, guys, we don't have control of the slides, do we?
They are moving. Yeah.
They are moving. So Andy seems to be moving them in the background still. Yeah. A bit of an intro first as to who Red Jam are. So obviously there's myself and Andy from the team at Red Jam. So a little bit about what we do. So if we can move on to the next slide. So we're basically a business improvement change management consultancy. So we support businesses in sort of four key areas. That's predominantly based around business improvement, so helping businesses to streamline their operations, improve productivity, and drive growth. We also offer sort of a wide sort of reaching sort of different elements of training and workshops. So whether that's training in continuous improvement and lean methodologies, or using methods such as Lego Serious Play. But we absolutely offer sort of hands-on interactive training, predominantly centered around, again, change management and sort of business improvement. We also offer coaching and mentoring packages to sort of SMEs that don't necessarily have change management resource within their organizations. And predominantly, obviously, what we're here to talk about today is the work that we do in the digital construction space. So helping construction firms leverage the power of technology across construction. And as Ben's already said, sort of predominantly centered today on discussing FieldView and its use in construction as more than just a snagging tool. Andy, can you move us on? No, have we lost Andy? Oh, are you back, Andy?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, you're back now. Are you able to carry on, Andy, or do you want to keep going?
Thanks, Matt. So, yeah, I'll carry on. So, digital construction. Why are we here today? I guess there's four key areas on this.
Andy, apologies. I think we're losing you again. I think you may be having Wi-Fi issues. Has everybody else lost Andy as well?
Yeah, we've got you.
To carry on, and we've sent him some dial-in, so I hope they can call in via phone to get his audio.
Are we able to knock his slides off screen, see if that helps? And I've got the slides open myself and I can present them. Okay, let's see if I can just share my screen. Okay, guys, apologies for the technical difficulties. Guys, am I sharing my screen now?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, so we'll carry on. So apologies for the technical issues. So I think Andy was trying to start talking about why digital construction. So many of you on the call may have already started your journey with sort of digitizing your construction operations, or be thinking about it. But obviously there's sort of 4 key areas that are driving that need for digital construction, predominantly sort of the regulatory compliance. So whether that be things such as Part L or the Building Safety Act. There's the need to drive performance and quality through increased compliance. So obviously, clients, main contractors, homeowners, customers, whoever they may be, are expecting higher levels of quality than ever before. And actually, there's a real need to increase performance and increase quality standards within the industry. There's a need for greater project control and visibility. So obviously, as projects become more intricate and so on, and you're managing multiple projects at any one point in time, having a digital tool that gives you greater centralized project control and visibility is massively important. And also it's about keeping things simple. So bringing in digital technology or a digital tool such as FieldView is not about making things complicated. It absolutely should be all about making things for those on site, those actually doing the day-to-day roles and activities on site, as simple as possible for those end users in the process. Why are we here, and why are we doing a webinar with Viewpoint and Trimble talking about FieldView? So we've worked with a number of clients within the construction space, supporting with the integration or the delivery of FieldView, and we do a vast array of sort of different elements or services in that, but some of those are on the screen here. So we fully manage the integration process for new users of FieldView. We absolutely support construction companies in reviewing and simplifying their current processes before putting them into FieldView. And we actually take some of the pain out of the digital transformation journey as well by actually doing a lot of the legwork and helping businesses with that initial setup and an ongoing administration of the system where required. One of the key areas where we add additional value is we support construction companies in enhanced reporting, which we'll touch on a little bit later, so I'll not go into detail now. And ultimately supporting construction firms to improve efficiency, quality, and the return on investment that they're making when taking on a product such as FieldView. I'm not going to go through these, but these are just a few of the clients that we've worked with. So obviously we've got a couple of our clients on the call today. So we've got Mike from Red Systems and Stevie from Remagine. And I think it's probably time for me just to hand over to those guys. And perhaps, Mike, if you could do a bit of an intro to yourself and Red Systems, that'd be great.
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Afternoon, everybody. My name is Mike Green. I'm the MD of Red Systems. And really just to give some context about the type of company we are an SME, so we're a specialist glazing contractor. So we work for most of the tier ones across the UK. We have a London office and a Northwest office, typically running 10 projects at any one time. And we turn over about £20 million a year. So put us firmly in the SME sector. And we've engaged with Red Jam to bring that expertise into the company as we've continued our journey with FieldView which started in, I think, 2016 as a project compliance piece of software. So I had a client, Wilmot Dixon, that wants us to use it on a project. The journey then, once we got used to FieldView and saw the benefit of it, it became a compliance on multiple projects for us, and then became a legislative compliance tool. And then we carried on and used it for trend analysis, both for safety and quality across our projects. And more recently, it's proved to be hugely beneficial with regards to the Building Safety Act. We're at the heart of the problem solving, being in facades, and being able to prove compliance on projects has been hugely beneficial with having a digital tool in place.
Perfect. Thanks, Mike. And perhaps Stevie, a bit of an intro to yourself and Remagine would be great.
Hi there, Stevie Parker, Operations Manager at Remagine. Been in this offsite construction industry for nearly 20 years. Remagine, like gauge steel frame installers, this is like Mike said there, we get introduced to FieldView through working with Tier 1 Wilmot Dixon, and then we get in contact with Red Jam and develop the system, as I says, to the actual business needs. We've been using it for over two years now. Huge benefits in using this for daily reporting, weekly reporting, the KPIs and quality. As I says, the quality bit, as I says, it's I think Matt and that will touch further on in the PowerPoint with us with the Power BI dashboard. So it's been a huge learning curve for us, but as I say, it saves so much time and for the business as well.
Perfect. Thanks, Stevie. Thanks, Mike. I think I'm getting confirmation that I think Andy's back on. Andy, is your Wi-Fi working now, or?
Yeah, I'm back on. Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect. I'll drive the slides.
Perfect. Brilliant. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Stevie. Thanks, Mike. So what we want to do today is share some real-life examples of how we work with our clients, how we utilise and harness the power of FieldView beyond that use of, as a snagging tool. As we've said, there's a lot of organisations out there that predominantly focus on just using it for snagging, but there is so much more. So we're going to cover a few key areas. We're going to talk about asset tagging and using the QR code functionality. We're then going to talk about fabrication and production and how it's used in offsite. We're then going to move into the more detailed offsite and then into health and safety. And then after we finish with health and safety, we're going to go into the regulated compliance, such as the Building Safety Act and the Golden Thread. And then, as Stevie alluded to, some of the use of data, some of the project management tools. And then finally, we're going to touch on customer care. We will step through these slides relatively swiftly to give you an idea of how else it's being used. But the slides, as we said at the top of the call, the slides will be shared, and you can reach out to ourselves or Viewpoint or Trimble for any further details. The next slide, please, Matt. So first of all, I wanted to talk to you about asset tagging using QR codes. So FieldView has a fantastic functionality with a QR code functionality. And this is an example of how Red Systems are using it within their factory. So temporary QR codes and permanent QR codes are applied in the factory during fabrication. So as that frame is manufactured, there are 3 QR codes that are applied. 2 temporary ones, which you see on the left-hand side, the bigger ones, and then the small permanent one. The reason for the permanent one, I'll go into in a while, but the temporary ones are really to harness the power of FieldView. So they're applied in the factory during fabrication. They are used across that fabrication, installation, and customer care. So from scanning the raw materials to delivery on site to positioning it in site, scanning that functionality within FieldView and putting it into a location on site. And what we found, certainly within Red Systems and working alongside Red Systems and Viewpoint, reducing those errors, it improves accuracy and it improves the quality of the information that we're able to capture within Field View. So asset tagging using the QR codes and using Field View functionality is absolutely at the forefront of what some of our clients use it for. Thanks, Matt. I touched on fabrication and production, so I'll give you, there's a couple of examples here, both from a Reimagine point of view and a Red Systems point of view, very much using the QA functionality, the form functionality, to not only scan the journey of that product from production through to site, but also things such as recording and monitoring non-conformance, transport load sheets, which I know is used quite a bit within Reimagine, QA protection within the factory, QA within the factory within Red Systems. Again, all linked through Field View forms and in some cases QR code technology. Thanks, Matt. An offsite construction. So there's an example here. Red Systems do a lot of work with FP McCann and who are concrete. They produce concrete panels. They do a lot of installation off-site, and we've worked closely with FP McCann and Viewpoint in terms of when that structure comes out of the factory before the windows are installed. FP McCann also apply additional QR code for us. That QR code allows us then, as you will see in the images, to use Field View to track panel location, progress of installation, and also track it from QA to handover, all completed within Field View. So the ability of working alongside FP McCann, alongside Viewpoint, to have that traceability. It comes out of the factory, we use the system, we use Field View, we scan it, and we are recording all of the QA and all of the forms and the progress of that installation, all within the Field View software. Thanks, Matt. So okay. in terms of health and safety, I shall just pass over to Matt just to take us through the next few slides.
Thanks, Andy. So health and safety, we work with predominantly the majority of our clients use Field View now for their health and safety reporting on site, and just to try and bring to life some examples of how it can be used, or what types of reporting it can be used for on site. We'll just run through a few examples. So one of the key ones, fairly obvious one, but accident and near miss reporting. Absolutely, both Red Systems and Reimagine, absolutely, we've brought in accident and near miss reporting into the Field View systems from previous use of things like accident books and paper forms. Edge protection inspections, so particularly obviously in Reimagine and in Red Systems, but if you use Reimagine as the example, working at height quite a lot of the time, building high-rise sort of apartment buildings or student accommodation, and absolutely ensuring that edge protection is in place to prevent prevent falls is absolutely key. So absolutely using Field View to inspect that edge protection on installation, but also at the regular points, whether that be a weekly or fortnightly check or whatever that may be, but absolutely using forms within Field View to capture that, capture those inspections along with the real high quality sort of photographic evidence of that, of those safety precautions being in place. Toolbox talks, again, an obvious one, that's, part of bread and butter when it comes to health and safety on site, but absolutely using it as a record, Toolbox talk register sort of record, so that you can confidently articulate that all of your colleagues on site have had the relevant Toolbox talks delivered to them. Again, a key one, and both the clients, Red Systems and Reimagine, who are on with us today, both not only install but have elements of fabrication and manufacturing. So I know, again, in particular in Reimagine's case, they complete a factory floor walk or inspection within field view. And again, both clients, Red Systems and Reimagine, use field view for completing site safety inspections. So actually on site, whether that be your project managers or a health and safety manager visiting the site, absolutely using field view to complete site safety inspections, or even health and safety audits is something that's been really beneficial. And the ability to complete an audit in field view and raise tasks out the back of that audit where there are areas of non-compliance has worked really well. You can obviously also complete your equipment checks. So pure and Lola inspections are completed through field view as well. And again, you're able to complete those as required in line with sort of your requirements. But again, the ability to record equipment, take photographic evidence of the condition of the equipment or any faults with the equipment identified, and being able to ensure that your team are using equipment that's been inspected thoroughly. Permits, again, real key one. So the ability to use field view for elements such as hot works and temporary works is really key, and the ability to track what permits are currently live or closed off is again a really key use of field view. Visitor signing in and out. So again, doesn't sound like a big one, but the ability to just be able to sign digitally on a tablet in and out works really well again on field view. And also, again, something within SIGMAT at the point of onboarding a project or starting a project, they complete an environmental impact assessment as well. So they're actually ensuring, they've considered anything as required on site that could have an environmental impact based upon what they're physically delivering on that particular project. Just to bring those to life, we're obviously not going to share significant details on the call because we haven't got huge amounts of time. But just to try and bring it to life with a few examples, as part of your week site safety inspection, you can obviously answer questions, but also include photos. And a bit of an example of the edge protection example that I talked about earlier from a Reimagine point of view. So, actually ensuring that edge protection has been installed correctly, has been inspected by the site manager. And again, you've got photographic evidence captured in field view that's all date, time and location stamped on those images, as you can see in the bottom left corner of that photo there. So health and safety, really key, obviously, huge sort of, particularly in construction, health and safety should be at the forefront of all of our projects. So absolutely managing it through field view and having those digital records is really key. I think we touched on regulatory compliance at the start of our session, but obviously regulatory compliance, is obviously ramping up, and over the past few months and years, the evolution of the Building Safety Act and Part L. Not to say that's the only regulations in place, but just as a couple of key examples. And Red Systems, if we use those guys as an example, absolutely use field view to ensure that they are compiling that golden thread of information to be able to prove the compliance when it comes to the Building Safety Act, and showing the competency of their installers, the products that have been used on site. And actually, again, providing really key photographic evidence of the installation of that, really critical part of the construction process when it comes to fire safety. Part L, again, not particularly something that we can bring to life in a photo very well, but absolutely using field view and utilising forms, but also processes within field view. So again, I'm sure there's many field view users on the call, on the webinar, but again, processes tends to be an area that we see that is underutilised within field view, and absolutely being able to use processes with forms attached to it within field view to be able to capture all the required photographic evidence that needs to go alongside Part L is really key. And obviously with the processes, if you haven't used them, we obviously aren't going to have time to delve into it today, but it gives you a real sort of structured workflow whereby you can absolutely ensure that you can't close off that workflow until the relevant form or the relevant photographic evidence has been provided. And it gives you a really clear, as you might be able to see it on the image on the right hand side, it gives you a bit of a traffic light system. So it's green when it's closed, and you can set the workflow so that you can really clearly see what parts of the sort of evidence you've actually achieved so far, and what is outstanding, so that you can confidently close off that plot or that building or that floor, knowing that you've got all of that Part L information captured before you continue with the build. And again, really easy to capture utilising forms and processes within field view. We've talked about it earlier, and Stevie mentioned it. Both Reimagine, and apologies, Stevie, obviously we're in the process of rebuilding your dashboards at the moment. So the examples you can see on screen is branded Sigmat. So Sigmat is part of now what is the Reimagine brand. As part of working with both Reimagine and with Red Systems, we've introduced increased reporting capability. So what do we mean by that? So obviously, I think it's part of Ben's slides. There's APIs in and out of field view, and actually what we do there is we use those APIs to extract all of the information that is captured within field view. So whether that be your site diaries, your non-conformances, your health and safety, any of those forms or data or tasks or processes that are completed within field view, we utilize the APIs to extract that information and then build bespoke dashboards for our clients, giving the leaders in those business, in effect, instant access in a centralized way to that information that comes out of field view across as many projects, obviously, as they're running in the system. The dashboards are automated, so once we've set them up, it saves significant admin time. I know, obviously, prepping for project review meetings, as an example, is a regular occurrence, and will be a regular occurrence for many of you on the call. And I'm sure you spend hours, days probably each year prepping for these meetings. Actually, these dashboards can take a lot of that legwork out of it, and give you that sort of easily accessible, centralized view of the data. And as I think Mike mentioned in his intro, it allows you to start using that data to do trend analysis and spot trends. So if we talk about non-conformances as an example, non-conformances should be a learning opportunity, i.e. something has not followed the process, something's gone wrong. But actually having that centralized view of all of those areas of non-conformance or quality issues actually allows you to spot the trends and take some action to deal with it. Whereas at the moment, if you're not utilizing a tool such as field view to highlight your quality concerns or your quality issues or your non-conformances, then actually you'll probably have all of that information scattered across various projects, and probably captured in different ways as well, whether that be in Excel documents, in Word documents, or in some cases still pen and paper. So real key example there of bringing data to life, and it absolutely being used to drive positive change within these businesses. Again, as I said, we've absolutely rolled these dashboards out, built bespoke. So obviously you can see here a Red Systems example. And absolutely, this is just about sort of giving the leaders within the business the information within a couple of clicks, rather than having to go looking for it, and being able to drill down into that next level of information and be able to, as we said, highlight trends and take some real positive action from the data and turn it into actual insight, rather than just data that's collected. And finally, from our point of view on that journey that we were going to touch on today, is talk about customer care as well. So actually, in Red Systems' case, we utilise, or they utilise, field view alongside a couple of other Microsoft products, which you can see at the bottom of the screen there, Dynamics 365 and Microsoft Bookings, to manage their customer care operation. So by that, as an example, the team used Dynamics 365 as their CRM, and in in recording customer care jobs into Dynamics 365, we've actually again utilised the APIs in and out of Field View to actually get Dynamics 365 to talk to Field View. And in effect, by opening a customer care job within the CRM, it actually already then generates a customer care engineer report within Field View. So actually, because of, as I said, we've got them to talk to each other, a lot of that information then is obviously captured within Dynamics 365, within the CRM, is automatically populated into that form within Field View as well. So again, it reduces duplication. You're not having to copy information from one system into another system. It automatically opens an engineer visit report, and then we use the Microsoft Bookings app alongside these products to be able to book engineer visits within their diary as well. So the engineers get a booking within their calendar and an engineer report pre-populated with all of sort of the faults that have been recorded as part of that customer care job. So again, just to bring it to life with a bit of an example, we're not going to have time to go through the whole process today, but ultimately, as I said, that customer care service engineer report gets pre-opened through the APIs. The information gets populated that's been captured across. So you can see here an issue with the balcony door not opening. So the actual fault is recorded. And then obviously the engineer has their visit booked within the Bookings app and goes along and completes the job. And then as an example, you can see there on the right-hand side, one of the images that was taken whilst completing that job on site. And also, again, as I talked about, similar to the process side of it and the tracking piece, using Field View also allows you to be able to track the completion of those jobs as well, using the different workflow statuses. So you can see there, sort of just to the right of that grey box, just a snapshot of sort of the traffic light system again. Again, these are completely configurable. This is part of obviously your administration setup. So these statuses could be whatever color and whatever descriptions you want. But ultimately in Red Systems, we use that to be able to identify easily which jobs have been visited and completed, where we've had a failed visit. Obviously, if we have had a failed visit, you'd see those comments within the form as to why the visit had failed, i.e., the customer wasn't available when they attended. And also where the site visit has been completed, but actually there may be some actions outstanding, such as needing to order parts. So real key sort of example of how Field View can be used actually after the traditional sort of construction project has almost closed down or come to an end, because obviously this customer care could be whilst you're on site, but ultimately it could be going back to a site where you've previously completed the project. I think that was all that we were intending to run through. I think this was just an opportunity of Mike, if there was anything else that you wanted to add to the mix, and equally then we'll move on to Stevie, but I'm conscious of time. But Mike, if there's anything key that you think you'd like to add regarding Red Systems use of Field View, that'd be great.
Yeah, I think my biggest comment is the deeper we've got into it with extracting the data, the more valuable that data's become to us and critical for operating the business, particularly on multiple sites. The trend analysis has great value for us, and we've had some big wins over the years with repeat offenders that we may not have spotted if it was just on a single site, and we just put that problem right on the site. And in terms of the overall project management, PRM meetings, the project review meetings you mentioned before, I think they're a characteristic of most construction companies, and ours are automated now. So it's linked into our financial systems. We designed what a PRM meeting should look like for us and what we want to report on, and it pulls the data automatically for us. That's proved to be hugely beneficial to us in terms of resource utilization, particularly around month end for QSs. And we've got plans going forward. Our aim is to automate the valuation process through Field View. So it's automatically linking Field View with our valuations, both our external valuations with customers, with photographic evidence, but also with our subcontract labour with installers. So we're linking quality to a payment. So we've been on a journey, but yeah, we've got a vision of how it might look in a couple of years for us as well.
Perfect. Thanks, Mike. Stevie, anything additional from yourself to add based upon what we just covered?
Yeah, again, it's been a fantastic journey for us. I'd imagine the more that you delve into this, as I say, the more that you get out of it. And again, as I think we've still got visions there as well, where we want to get to. But as I say, it's the benefits for the business from what we were introduced to Wilmot Dixon. As I say, is what we have now is far more information than what we had when we were dealing with that. So as I say, working with Red Jam on this as well, and getting the various systems to talk to each other, it's just been a huge benefit.
Perfect. Thanks, Stevie. I'm conscious we need to leave some time for Q&A. So obviously there may be some questions because both Andy and myself and Mike and Stevie have obviously covered quite a lot of ground here. So if anybody else does want to pick up, obviously we're going to answer some questions live on the webinar. But if you don't get your question answered, or if you'd like to pick up and discuss any of those elements that we've covered today in any more detail, please take a note of our details here, get in touch, drop us a call, drop us an email. The slides are going to be uploaded obviously alongside this webinar as well, so if you don't get time to take our contact details down now, you can absolutely do so from the recording or from the slides. But yeah, reach out if you've got any further questions or you'd like to discuss how any of those elements work in any more detail, and myself or Andy would be happy to talk it through with you. Guys, I'm going to try and take my slides down now, which I seem to have lost the button that says stop sharing. There we go. So hopefully all the slides have gone.
Yes, everything is a-okay now, and we're all back online. So let's get into some of these questions. The first question, I'm going to be a bit cheeky and ask one of my own, just because I was scribbling away madly while you were all talking.
Because you can.
Exactly. The luxury of just getting to sit here and listen. One of the questions I sort of wanted to ask, particularly around that compliance, there's so much regulatory change and shift at the moment, whether it's Part L, building safety. You're obviously also talking about that customer engagement, which is such a big thing given the Social Housing Act and the movement in that space and the new regulatory requirements around that. So I was wondering if you could delve into some more practical examples of how it's sort of really helped in that regulatory compliance when it's such a shifting landscape, and the risk that sort of helps tackle for businesses.
Any volunteers for that one?
Well, I think I can offer something to that. I mean, we're a facade contractor, so post Grenfell and the Building Safety Act has seen huge change for us, particularly around evidencing of workmanship and compliance with drawings, without having to deconstruct the building. That was a requirement of the Building Safety Act, and we were in the fortunate position that we'd already started the journey. We've had to make some tweaks to it. So, for example, previously we didn't capture the competency of the person who had installed the work, so we've been able to reconfigure field view. So previously we didn't say who'd fitted it, now we say who's fitted it, and it links to our compliance documents that shows which installers trained in which, so we can evidence at the end of the job. I mean, it's still unclear at the moment about golden thread information, but what we do know is we're going to need evidence of what you've installed and the competency of who's done it. I think there's still a lot to learn within the industry about what the format of that might be and how you present the data. But we've done what the Act as intimated is going to be required, which is evidence, and field view clearly plays its part there.
I think it's a real key one, as Mike said. In a lot of cases, Jordan, the information that we're needing to provide, or construction companies are needing to provide, isn't accessible after the job has finished, because it's been covered up, whether that be by a facade or or some other means. That evidence quite often is not visible without having to, as Mike said, deconstruct the building. So having a digital record in a tool such as Field View, with the quality photographic evidence that is date, time, location stamped, gives real sort of positive evidence around that completion of that work without having to go back and take quite drastic action of punching holes in walls or tearing down sort of work that's been completed.
Does anyone else want to come in on that? I did have another question just about the photo evidencing coming from the audience, but if anyone wanted to wrap up on that one before I jump to that, please do. Nope. Okay, all good. So we heard a question coming from the audience about the geotagging and photo evidencing on site if it's internal. Is it as effective as if you're on the external and the geotagging information?
Yeah, I think I'm happy to answer that as well. So when we first encountered Field View, Wilmot Dixon used it in plan view. So they tended to have a plan view of the rooms, and the tagging was done on plan view. And actually, one of the first challenges we had was about changing Field View, so it was done on elevations. So we now use elevation drawings rather than the floor plans to tag the elevations. And again, every company's different. What RedJam helped us with was the process mapping to understand what's the problem that we're trying to solve here, and what are the steps that we need to take to solve that problem. I think often people jump in with a piece of software. So we were given a piece of software, Field View, which didn't really, the way it was being used by Wilmot Dixon really didn't suit our specialism needs. And that's what we used RedJam for, was to understand, right, what do we need to capture here? And we changed to elevation. So yeah, for us, it works absolutely fine on elevations. And actually, it was designed to work on floor plans. So yeah, it definitely meets those needs.
Brilliant. Oh, go ahead, Ben.
I was just going to add that, clearly internally, the geo accuracy is not what it will be externally. Yeah. I'd say the key thing is to agree with your regulator what they deem to be acceptable in terms of identification of where you are, and also that will vary from site to site and location to location. But obviously, in addition to that, you've got the ability to use barcode tags and so on to allow the location. So as long as you've agreed what the acceptable way of defining the location of where you are taking that photograph is, and remember, if you've got a tag which relates to a particular window or to a room even, you can hold it up, and then that form will be associated with that tag. So as long as they've agreed, that gives you the sufficient verification that you are where you say you are.
Yeah, I was just going to say similar, Ben. Sorry, Jordan, just to add to that. Obviously, there's multiple ways you're identifying. So you're potentially dropping a pin on a plan drawing or on a map within Field View. So you've got the location. Absolutely, in Red Systems case, as Ben's just said, they use the QR codes. So actually, we're scanning an asset tag that is physically attached to that asset, that window, that frame, that actually then takes you directly to that location. So it removes that element of inaccuracy as well, because particularly on high-rise buildings, you could have, Mike, one of your jobs could have thousands of windows that you're installing, and absolutely being able to use the scanning functionality within Field View to scan the asset tag that is already on that window removes that sort of inaccuracy and that view of actually, am I in the right or the wrong location? And really, then you're really clear that you not only have you got a location within Field View, but that's backed up with the sort of scanning of the asset tag that's on the product as well.
And of course, that's also equally the case whether we're talking about sustainability, Part L, or whether we are talking about fire.
Yeah, absolutely.
Correct. I think we actually call them lifetime asset codes on our windows. So, you know, the one thing about the Building Safety Act is we've had to change our thoughts around safety from the construction phase to the lifetime of that building. So it's really helped us with customer care, because often the building might change hands or it's old, and if we get a customer care call or a question on it, we just ask them to scan the lifetime asset code, so we can automatically pull up the warranty period, when it was made, who installed it, you know, that evidence that we've got of the lifetime journey. And you could use it for maintenance, for example, if it needs to be maintained over a certain period of time. So really useful bit of kit for us as a business.
Brilliant. One of the things that I sort of also want to tackle, there's a lot of, you know, why this is great, and the issue is that, you know, we can help tackle with the tools like field view and, you know, these sorts of interventions. I guess one of the things I sort of wanted to address was the how. So how do you sort of go about implementing the use of a tool like field view into existing construction workflows, you know, on schemes that can't really afford the disruption or anything like that? For people on the call who aren't already in this process, you know, how can they go about implementing with, you know, minimal disruption to both business operations and construction project timelines and operations?
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody wants to jump in?
I think hopefully you can still hear me, and apologies for the issues at the start. But I think what's really important, and Mike echoed it, is really understand what's the problem you're trying to solve, you know, and understand that at the front, to understand the process element alongside to utilising the technology, which is absolutely what we've done with field view. And you know, field view's a great tool, and there's some great elements in terms of tailoring it for different organisations. And it's really understanding what's that process, and how do I get the best out of it, and how do I make sure that the tool is, you know, as its purpose is easy to use, easy to capture data on site, and also easy to use that data to you know, understand, sort of, as Mike said earlier, around the trend analysis, how do we continually improve? So it's really starting at the start alongside that journey of integration.
I think as well, just to add to that, sorry, Jordan, that people are key in this. So we're obviously here on a technology webinar, and we're talking about, you know, digital tools, and quite rightly so, because obviously that's the purpose of this webinar. But ultimately, engagement with the people that are going to be using this tool is really key. So being able to explain to those individuals the why, so absolutely involving them in the change. Particularly at Red Jam, we're a real advocate of doing change with people rather than to people. So absolutely taking the site teams on the journey. So, you know, as an example, and Stevie, hopefully you don't mind me using yourselves as an example here, but, you know, Remagine introduced Field View 3 years ago now. Actually, it's 3 years ago, and as part of that process, it was all new. They were moving from a paper-based sort of operation. I say paper-based. There was, you know, Excel documents, Word documents, but typically, you know, filled in pen and paper on site, or you know, sat at the laptop. But absolutely, you know, engaging their site managers, engaging their contracts managers within that process of change, I think paid real dividends, because actually they, you know, we took them on that journey, and I think taking them on, anybody that's involved in the change, on the journey of change, will mean that it embeds. And it sticks. And Stevie, I'm probably sure to say that you guys would probably be lost without Field View now if we turned it off tomorrow. Would that be fair to say?
Yes, I think they would, Matt. As I said, as I said before, it's been a huge benefit for us, as I said, and again, I think the key for it is mapping it to the business requirements. As I say, it's been huge for us. So thanks to yourselves.
I mean, what we're talking about now should come as no surprise to anybody. It's that old mantra of people, process, and technology.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You know, with highly adaptable and configurable tools which are about process, like Field View, it becomes, you know, all of these industry themes that we've heard about for so long, like lean, you know, really beginning to understand what is it that your business is trying to do, how can we make that more efficient, and then using the technologies to help with that process, not just obviously the process itself, but also reporting on that and getting you insight across you know, all your jobs of how you're doing, yeah, you know, at director level. So those are all things, you know, which I think, you know, though we're being quite sort of specific here about site data collection, it absolutely fits into that bigger picture that we've all been talking about for so long.
Absolutely, and I mean, this is just sort of me making an assumption based on what we've been talking about here, but I imagine it must help with, you know, communication and cooperation between sort of back of office, in office, and on-site teams within the same company, but probably also, you know, across the project. Is that like something that you guys are seeing?
Probably one for Michael, Stevie to answer, I suppose, from experience with that.
Yeah, I think that, you know, construction companies have the challenge of a large percentage of the workforce being remote. So it's definitely improved collaboration across projects, for sure, and improved data transfer between the office and the site. You know, I think that the customer care one is a great example for us, where we're able to send the forms directly. So we have the admin function within the office, which is where it's better placed. You know, previous to us implementing that change in the company, it was reliant upon a service engineer receiving a call and filling the form and getting the paperwork back to the office. And I think that's a great example where the customer has a better experience because of the technology and the process that we brought into place.
I think the ease of transfer is massive as well. So the fact that actually you can be on site, you know, capturing information on a tablet or a mobile device that's offline as well. So as I think Ben touched on earlier, you don't need to be connected to Wi-Fi. It is an offline mobile solution that, you know, you can capture your information online, on your tablet, go back into the site office or go back into the office, sync your device, and all of that information then flows through into sort of a central repository. And that's massive. You know, not that long ago, we were working with, and it's nobody on this call, but we've had experience of construction firms not that long ago, probably within the last 4 to 5 years, that we're still posting information into the office or delivering it in a carrier bag at the end of the month or whatever that may be. And, you know, I'm being quite flippant, but, you know, just the extremes to prove a point. The fact that actually, you know, that information can be transferred pretty much instantly, clicking a couple of buttons, must only be beneficial for that sort of centralized view of your projects, particularly where particularly in Remagine and Red Systems, you know, you guys will have how many live projects at any one go?
We have about 10.
10, Stevie, Remagine at the moment? Lost Stevie, but similar amounts, I think. You know, multiple projects and handling all that information and it coming in centrally is a massive benefit.
Absolutely. I'm very cognizant of the fact we've only got a few minutes left and we've covered a lot of ground for the audience. And so I was sort of hoping that I might ask each of you to sort of give 1 or 2 key points that you would sort of want the audience to leave with at top of mind on this sort of topic, what they could stand to take away.
Is everybody else getting that really robotic noise?
I think that's through Stevie's mic, but I think it's just shut off. So I think shoot.
Okay. Does anybody want to go first? Shall I go first? Okay, 1 point to take away, I think, is that I said it earlier, but absolutely, and you know, I think we've all echoed it. Is it's a great tool, but absolutely getting the process and the people side of it is just as important. So you know, for anybody out there that thinks any technology, we're specifically talking field view, but if anybody thinks any technology is a silver bullet and it's going to solve all of your problems or instantly make your operation more efficient, you've absolutely got to, you've got to do the people side and you've got to do the process side alongside it. Otherwise, all that you will be doing is putting poor processes into a digital format. So absolutely, that's probably the takeaway for me.
Takeaway from me is really about that. As you said at the start, the tool is definitely beyond snagging. We do see a lot of organisations that are just using it for snagging, but think of the ability to use it in different environments, different processes. It's really powerful.
Absolutely. Ben, did you want to share any
I'd just double down on what Mike said. With all our tools, not just field view, but the other tools like Connect and VFP, all of those ones which are about collecting data from like understanding your business process. So investing actually in things like Lean and Six Sigma will vastly aid you in the implementation of your software, ours or anybody else's actually. So I would just sort of emphasize that it always surprises me how sort of granular people's views of their process is when I talk to them. They'll know what they're doing, but they won't necessarily know the bigger picture. And investing in those industry established ways of understanding your process and improving upon it will only make your adoption of the technology better.
Brilliant. Stevie, Mike, would either of you like to add anything that you'd like the audience to know leaving?
Yeah, I think as a business owner, I'll talk about return on investment. So it has been a big investment for us as a company. I think the data extraction has proved to be the most financially beneficial for us as we've started to do that trend analysis. But the unquantifiable is the customer experience. So our customers get a much better experience from us as a result of adopting the digital tools. So yeah, it's a big investment, but worth the journey.
Brilliant. And Stevie, I was just asking if anybody had any closing thoughts before we wrap up the session.
Yeah, as I said, it is a big investment, as I says, but it's worth every penny. It really is. I says, and it's a good, fantastic journey to go on as well, as I says. And again, some of the data that we extract now, we weren't recording before, so it really is.
Brilliant. Well, that's all we have time for today. I'd love to thank all our speakers for sharing their knowledge, expertise, and experience. It's been really, really valuable. A special thanks for Trimble for supporting us and putting this on today. And again, thank you to the audience for joining in. We really appreciate having you all on board and the questions that you sent through. One final thing for me, when this session ends, there'll be a survey that comes up. It is literally 4 questions. It will take you 60 seconds to answer and just helps us design sessions that are delivering the content that you're after. So if you could just fill that in, we'd be ever so grateful. That's it from me. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thanks.